Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast, the personal development podcast for folks who want more fulfillment, connection, purpose, and joy in life. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien, a no-nonsense coach, a seasoned entrepreneur, photographer, rescue dog mum, and happy life enthusiast. Each week on the podcast, I share tools, tips, and strategies, amazing guest interviews, and uplifting conversations that will help you improve all areas of your life. Let's dive in. Hi folks, a very warm welcome to season 5, episode 13 of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast with me, Emma O'Brien. Today I'm going to be sharing with you and talking to you about ancestral allegiances and how hidden family loyalties could be keeping you stuck. If you caught my last episode, I was sharing about family constellations and how this is a modality I have trained in, and how powerful and profound it is to be able to accelerate a healing journey and really give a greater insight and context into the stories and the patterns and the things we often struggle with in our lives. I think there's one thing that makes us distinctly human is we often all have challenges that we can relate to. But what if the thing that's keeping you stuck in your life isn't some sort of personal failing, isn't some sort of character flaw, but some pattern of unconscious love that is happening for you and was set up when you were very small in order for you to keep your status of belonging within your family system? We can unconsciously limit our happiness, our ability to earn money, our level of success, and our happiness in relationships to remain loyal to our family system so that we can continue to belong. So, for instance, you might have grown up in a family where there wasn't very much money, or there was a struggle around money. And no matter how hard you try to change that, you still find that money is a struggle for you. It's quite possibly a hidden loyalty that's happening there. And these things can also show up in relationships. So maybe you find yourself being very unhappy in every relationship you're in, even though you pick a different person and even though you think you've changed the dynamic. My question would be, who else in your family system is unhappy in relationships? And who are you maintaining a sense of belonging with that? And of course, all of these things that are happening are completely unconscious. None of us choose this. It's just the loyalties that happen in our family system that when we're very small, we take it on and we're like, okay, this is how I have to be in order to maintain my bond with this person or in the family system. And sometimes, of course, our inherited things are inherited from further back down our ancestral line. Allegiances to a grandparent, allegiances to uncles, aunts. There's fascinating when you start to really dig into the world of family constellations and how our family systems can really entangle us without us realizing at all. So the thing with family constellations is really, and a great question to sit with, that I like to sit with when I'm doing this, is can we honor where we have come from without repeating it? And often our repeating of things, like I've said, is very unconscious. So we need to do the work on the unconscious patterns in order to actually be able to consciously create change in our life. So we don't keep perpetuating the same things that we're constantly trying to escape from, but that just plague us in our lives. So hidden loyalties are unconscious agreements that we make that maintain connection and belonging. I can't have more than you is a really common one when it comes to money. I'll struggle as well, so you're not alone. If there's somebody who's very unhappy, and this can happen in relationships with money, it can happen with health, it can show up in all sorts of different ways. Or I'll carry this burden for you, which is something that came up in a constellation for a client I did recently, that she had been very unconsciously carrying a burden of one of her parents. And it was really blocking her success. It was blocking lots of things in her life. So it was really interesting for that to come up. And the work that has come out of that is starting to really stand up for herself and set better boundaries. So, of course, I think the thing, you'll know me if you've listened to this podcast for a while, that I love all of the deep inner work. I really love the modalities that bring out realizations, but the real courageous walking of the path to change is when we integrate what's happened. And that means when we have brought something that's in our unconscious awareness into conscious awareness, how do we go forward and actually create change? And we have to do that. Only we can do that quite consciously. So that's where the post constellation work really comes up. So our family of origins are the original system that we belong to. So if you start to reflect in your life, you are part of multiple systems. So part of your family system when you grew up, when you were at school, you were in a school system, in a system of teachers, a hierarchy, friends, all sorts of things there. When you are at work, you are part of a system. And we learn, whichever system we are in, there are a particular set of rules that we have to follow in order to maintain being in the system. And the family system is where we learn what we have to do in order to belong and how we have to shift and change our true selves in order to be accepted by other people who are, of course, all working with their own internal compasses and sets of values and their own stuff that's happened to them. So this is, I mean, it is very complex. So we learn in our family system, we learn what love looks like. And if you've grown up in a healthy family system, you'll know what healthy love looks like, that repair happens after a rupture, that it's okay if you fail because people will support you. It's okay if you have a need. It's okay if you display an emotion because there's a space for it to be held. But unfortunately, I think for the majority of people, that did not happen. We learn that love is conditional on performing or behaving or silencing ourselves or looking a certain way, being a certain way. And that becomes our map of what love is like when we go out into the world as adults, and we will often recreate what happened in our family system because we might not like it, but we are familiar with the rules of how that works. We learn in a family system what success costs. If you have watched a parent who has worked really, really hard, but never quite made it, somebody who's worked really hard and burnt out, or worked really hard and had a heart attack, we see success comes at a price. So I don't want to replicate that because what if that happens to me? Is one of the things that could be happening. We learn how conflict is handled. We learn whether anger is okay. We learn whether we can speak up or not. We learn that if we speak up and ask for something, sometimes we're punished. So, of course, this sets the pattern up for people pleasing and having poor boundaries. All of these things are in response to our family system and our family of origin. And they are behaviors that we run that I know so many people and a lot of the people I coach that really give ourselves a hard time. I shouldn't be such a people pleaser. I'm so stupid. I just shouldn't do it. I don't know why I do it. You'll be doing it because it has been what has been modeled to you, and there might be deeper things at play with it. A big part of this, and the thing that family constellations work has done for me, is really give me a very deep sense of compassion for myself and my own, what I would probably have deemed before this, failings. If you're listening to it, I'm using inverted commas, failings. It's also given me a deep compassion for other people because so many people have so many personal challenges that we just don't know about. And you might have they might run a particular behavior pattern. You just think, oh, for crying out loud, I can't stand this. But if you start to dig a little bit deeper, there's a reason they do that. And when we know why someone has been shaped to behave the way they do, we can have compassion for it. We don't have to condone it, of course, but we can have compassion for that. And I think the world is a place where we need a little bit more compassion and understanding for each other and space holding for each other. We learn in our family systems who is allowed to thrive. As a woman, you will have learned various things about what it means to be a woman from your family system. And that a lot of this is also very ancestral stuff. We'll have learned that it's a woman's place to look after a man, perhaps. We've learned that it's women don't speak up. Women suffer in silence. Women can't have needs. Women can't be too loud. Whilst I'm talking, maybe you're recognizing some of the things that play out in your own life, and you've been thinking, oh God, I thought it was some sort of character flaw, but actually, it's not. And fundamentally, in our family systems, we learn what we need to do to belong. And we take this and we carry it out into our lives as adults. And some of these things will work really, really well. Some of them will not, which is why I exist doing constellation work, because this is where we have a look at the things that don't really work and what can I do to change them and understand them. So, a really good example of a family loyalty, a hidden family loyalty, would be not outperforming a parent. So, let's just say you had a father who worked really, really, really hard, and maybe he kind of did really well ish, but it was always a struggle. And perhaps you find yourself repeating the same pattern that no matter what you do, there's kind of never enough, or you don't know how to be successful without the struggle. And when we're talking about hidden loyalties, your father in this example, the last thing he would want is for you to struggle in the same way he did. However, when you do, it you have this unconscious allegiance of, I know what it's like to struggle. I understand how hard you worked. It's also a great bonding exercise because you'll be able to talk about the struggle with your parents. You'll be able to talk about how hard it is with your parent. There will be stories that relate to each other, and it becomes a bonding exercise. Very, again, very unconscious, but that's what it is. So we do these things unconsciously to maintain belonging because on an unconscious level, there's a bit of you that'll be thinking, well, if I outperform my dad, or if it's easier for me than it was for him, I'm going to feel guilty about how hard he worked. I need to show him that it was not in vain what he did, and so on and so forth. So we can start to also examine the stories we tell ourselves about these hidden loyalties we have with family members. So hidden loyalties might be showing up for you in various aspects of life. One of the big ones is recurring patterns. So whether you have there's often patterns in families where a certain thing happens to a certain person at a certain age. So you might find in your family, people get to 30 and get divorced, for example, and that has happened for 3 generations, and maybe it's happened to you. Not a coincidence. There's some sort of thing happening in the family system there, some sort of hidden loyalty going on. Feeling guilty when life eases up or when things get better, or if something comes to you and you haven't really had to struggle for it when you've seen your parents really struggle for it, you can feel really guilty about that. And maybe you also sabotage it because of that to just bring the status quo back into balance. Feeling responsible for a parent's happiness, being somebody who is almost in a partner role rather than a child role, even as an adult, in a child role with your parents. There's some sort of potential hidden loyalty going on there. Choosing familiar but painful relationship patterns. So maybe you think you get into a new relationship, you think it's not going to be like the last one, and then you find yourself feeling exactly the same. Maybe you have partners who repeatedly cheat on you. Maybe you repeatedly cheat on people and you don't know why you do it. It's a great way to start having a look at what's actually happening here. Overfunctioning. This is something that's very, very common for women in relationship, of feeling like as a woman, you have to be needed, you have to be helpful, you have to step up, you have to do anything in order to stay belonging in your marriage, your partnership, your family, your relationship family system, because that's what you've seen happen before. Or maybe it's what happened to a grandparent, and maybe you didn't know the grandparent, but you're still maintaining this loyalty with that pattern. Feeling stuck despite doing all of the work. This is something that I'm very familiar with because it's been a pattern that I've run, and it's something that I've been really working on with constellation work and energetic work. If you are doing all the things and you are showing up and you are doing everything right, but you're still not getting the results that you want, I would start to have a look at what's really energetically blocking you, because strategy doesn't always get you where you want to go if there's unconscious things happening under the surface. And of course, if you make seeing a pattern of self-sabotage showing up in your life, this is a really great place to start having a look. We can often have a really big go at ourselves when we sabotage things. So self-sabotage might look like you really want a new job. You are applying all over the show for jobs, but and you've got your CV ready and you're looking at the job application things, but when it comes to actually sending things in on time, you miss deadlines or you make a mistake on the CV, or you go to apply for something, have a look at it, think I'd really love to do this, get really excited about it, and then just talk yourself out of it. This isn't for me. I won't get it. What's the point? This is we often really get cross with ourselves for why am I so stupid? Why am I behaving like that? And actually, this is where we need to apply a little bit of compassion and sort of say, what might this pattern be protecting? And who might this pattern of self-sabotage be keeping me close to? We can gain a new perspective when we look in a different way with a bit of curiosity rather than judgment and rather than just being really cruel to ourselves, quite frankly. So, how constellations, family constellations, and systemic work can really help with this is it's a modality that allows you to take a very different and objective look at your family system, where you fit, and what actually might be going on under the surface to maintain the thing that you're maintaining but would rather not have to do, the thing that you know you do but have just got no idea how to break the pattern and break the cycle. So constellations, I talked a bit more about what actually happens in last week's episode, but in brief, if I'm doing a group constellation with people, I'll have a collection of people together in a space in person. The client who's coming to investigate a problem or an issue will choose somebody from the group to represent them. And then we'll choose other people from the group to represent the other players in the particular scenario. So it might be a parent, it might be something like abstract, like money, it might be a boss, it might be a block. And we pick people in to represent those and allow the knowing field that we're working in to reveal what's coming through. So, what happens when people represent, which is just this is where it's really mind-blowing with constellation work, is they will be able to tune in to the field of the person, the energetic field essentially of the person they're representing, and glean information that they can then share. So with that new information, as the client can see a different perspective and get a greater understanding of something that perhaps they haven't been able to see from a point of view before. And what I find constellations work does really, really powerfully is add a little bit more information to a situation or a little bit more context. And when we have more information and we have a greater or differing context, it's easier to shift perspective. So, for instance, I have the theme of not feeling good enough is something that comes up again and again and again for people. And often in a constellation, somebody might feel that they just can't do it. They just can't apply for a job. They're just never going to get it. They're never going to be good enough. They're never going to succeed, and they hold themselves back. And the constellation might reveal that actually that was the story of a parent, and they have been unconsciously having a hidden loyalty to that parent. And in the constellation, you can do some healing sentences and some truth statements that bring into reality and just reveal what's happening and state fact about it. And also energetically then leave that pattern with the parent. I've been carrying this for you. It's cost me. I'm going to leave your fate with you. Little sentences like that, so powerful. And that's what's happening in the healing work that goes on in a constellation. So have a listen to last week's episode to find out a little bit more about that. One-on-one work, the principle is exactly the same. I'll be working with the client more often than not online on Zoom, and I'll use little tabletop markers to map the system of who relates to where in what position, and then I will represent for the parties involved to reveal the information that comes forth with my client. And really, it is about gaining a differing perspective and a slightly kind of eagle view perspective of situations. And sometimes just that shift in perspective is all it takes to be able to say, I've been carrying something that isn't mine, and I'm not going to carry it anymore. And of course, following on from a constellation, the real work happens in noticing what comes up for you after the constellation, and then having a look at, okay, if I don't want to keep repeating the self-sabotage pattern I found myself in, I need to become aware of, ooh, I'm just about to send my CV off and I've decided I'm going to go and clean a drawer and make myself a coffee, and then the page has disappeared and I've forgotten about it. The integration work and the power of that would be committing to sitting down and not getting up until the CV has been sent off. And that does require some conscious action. And that's really how we integrate and carry the change that comes from a healing modality like a constellation into our everyday life. It's not just up to the constellation to do it, it's up to us to carry that forward and make a different choice so we can move our lives forward and we can progress in the way we want to. So I'll leave you with a question. Where are you being loyal to your family system? And how does that loyalty that is really rooted in the past affect your present? And if you don't change it in the present, how will it keep affecting your future? So if you'd like to find out more about constellation work, all the details are in the show notes. I have an in-person workshop on the 6th of September at Windrush Studio in Johannesburg. So that's an in-person group workshop. And then I also do one-on-one private online family constellations. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can book a session with me online and we can do this work together as well. Both are incredibly powerful in different ways. Both are equally profound. So the one-on-one work is just a little bit more accessible if you want to get it done now, obviously if you're not near me, but and also it is if you're somebody who would prefer working in a one-on-one space, it's also really great because it'll just be me and you in the space doing the work together. So all the details are in the show notes. And as always, if you want to get in touch with me, you can message me on Instagram. I'm at Emma O'Brien Coach. Pop me a message. Let me know your thoughts. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please leave me a 5-star rating and a review, and make sure you share this episode with a friend who you know will also enjoy it. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. Please drop me a DM and say hi at Emma O'Brien Coach. And for more information about coaching with me, please head to my website, which is emmaobrien.coach.com.